Hey guys, and welcome to my video, where I transform my $6,000 house in Japan through DIY projects. This one is a follow-up on the mold and damp issues that I was having in my house. And since this is a problem that is pretty common for Japanese homes because of the humidity in the summertime and the cold in the wintertime, I thought it might be a good idea to share more about this. Plus, I'll show a bit more on the painting that I did around the house, because I think that some people were curious about how I changed the colors from that traditional Japanese kind of color scheme to something that's a bit brighter with the white paint around the house. Let me know what you think in the comment section about how you feel the transformation went with the color scheme change. So I'm going to attack these walls with bleach, and I've cleared out most of this space. You can see there's quite a bit of not just mold but dirt that's been left behind the on the walls here, all around the kitchen. Yep, so I'm going to hit that with, I've got like a bleach mix down here, which just like water and quite a lot of bleach. This will kill all of the mold and any like bacteria. So I'm just literally going to put this on. So I'm just going to put this on for a bit and then maybe leave it for 30 minutes and then wash it back off with fresh water. I'm just using that old carpet from like the original, one of the original carpets for drop sheet. Okay, definitely a bit of a mess, but I've just hit all of the walls in bleach. This will dry off and I'll wipe it down with water after. I've more or less done all the walls in here. I've got the fan going. Yeah, it's pretty good. You see, it's super, it's not, actually, that's not mold. That's where the cooker was. So that's more grease, which is fine. And this is probably more mold, but a mixture of grease and mold. Taking out that cupboard, taking out a lot of stuff in here. It's a mess, but I'll tidy this up today. So in this bottom floor bedroom, there is some mold. Behind this wall, the snow will sit like 4 or 5 meters up high. So I guess, there's no window on this side for a reason. It would just get crushed during the winter. This is probably going to be the dampest room in the house because of that. It does have this window here. Again, I think during the winter I'll try to keep that as clear as I can, so I have light coming in, and because I think this side also is going to be covered with snow above the window. There's nothing I can do about this side. This is too difficult. The snow that falls off the roof will be in the garden here, probably above the window, much higher above the window line. You can see here. Ground level is down there, and I think the snow, you see they have these like these hooks here on the windows. There'll be timber that goes across that, which is down there, to stop the windows from caving in when the snow builds up from down there and above the windows, up to the, probably up to the roof, that first floor roof there. We'll be doing, I've bleached some of this. I'm going to hit it again. And then up here as well, you see this is all mold. This is definitely, this side is actually not too bad, but I'm gonna bleach this down here because this is just not healthy. So washing down these walls, bleaching it all, cleaning it up, it's really hard work. You can see I'm sweating. It's probably like 30 degrees Celsius here. And it's just pretty humid, but okay, just finished washing this with bleach. It's still drying out. I don't know if that needs to be, I think that's just drying again. Yeah, but, you know, before it's still drying out, you see. Big difference, huge difference. I'm happy with that. And I've just wiped down all of the timber as well, in case there was any mold residue on there. And I wiped down inside here as well. You can see it's still kind of wet here, drying out. Looks great, very happy. Super hot today. I'm gonna take a quick break and just, there's a really nice breeze coming through the door. So when I got here today, it's like 30 plus degrees Celsius outside, and I was super happy to discover when I opened the door for the house, it was much cooler in the house. Some of the windows were open, but a lot were closed. That's a good sign for the insulation. You know, I got here after 12 o'clock p.m. and yeah, it was comfortable to be inside. That seems like a good sign that the insulation here at least is doing something. Whew. Pretty hot. When I was, and this is hard work, but when I was like, I actually started working when I was pretty young. And I think it started because of my brother. We used to do a Sunday paper round. On Sunday mornings, Sunday newspapers were delivered to our house, my family house. And my brother, it was my brother's job to deliver these newspapers. But there were some days he just kind of woke up and poked me and said, go out, you're gonna be doing these papers today. And the money was good. The money was like 40, 50 Australian dollars for a few hours of work. And, you know, for a 12-year-old kid, getting like 30, you're guaranteed 30 bucks, Australian dollars. And we're talking years back. I think it was like 2000-ish, like less before the 2000s, in the 90s. And I think from there, you know, then I did a newspaper, I did the leaflets, delivery, dropping all them around, and like my mom did most of that actually, but that's another story. But then work started happening, and I started saving money from like 12 years old. I had then started doing like a car washing thing locally, and my sister did that with me. So by the time I was 15, I was already doing a paper delivering on Sundays, doing a news leaflet delivery throughout the week, and do car washing. And I used to sand furniture for a family friend, and I'd go in on a Saturday morning for 4 or 5 hours. And on a Friday night, I would work in a Chinese restaurant washing dishes. And for a Friday night, for a few hours, I'd get $50 an hour. So yeah, all this time I feel like I've been working pretty hard. And then in between that, all of like my younger years, I would work with my dad, who is a painter and builder, doing this kind of stuff. So I've worked hard for a long time, but it's been fun and rewarding. And now I know how to do stuff around a house like this. I've got a pretty good old school foundation on how to do things. So this is the product that I'm going to use as a primer for the walls and the ceilings. It comes out a bit like water. Very different to the kind of primer that I'm used to, but this is what they use. So today I was able to put a coat of this like sealer on the walls. So I've coated it all up. You can't tell, but it's actually in primer now. I spent some time in this room today. This is probably the worst room for the mold, because this wall, as I mentioned before, has the snow buildup. So I put a coat of this sealer over it, this clear sealer that you can't really tell. And this sealer is a bit like what would be called Bondcrete. It's like glue, basically. It feels like a glue, and water is added to it. So I've sealed that up, and I'll paint that tomorrow with the white paint. So the ceiling I cleaned up today, so there's no mold up there anymore. I think I'll just do that patch there one more time. Yeah, but it's looking really good. I'm really happy with this room, how it's coming together. How cool is this feature, the timber here? I really like this. That's nice, the natural timber there. I'll keep that as it is. Yeah, so I think that's looking good. The space is looking good. How cool is that now that the shelf has gone on the right? You're getting that light come through. And I'll come up with a better system for those pots. I don't want them blocking the light in the window. I coated up this ceiling as well. You can see it glistening there. So that also has a coat of this sealer on it. I'm going to paint that in white, get rid of this light fitting. I just dislike this fluoro. That's going to go. But all these walls, you know, they do look bad. They've been bleached. They've been coated with this primer, I should call it, not sealer, primer. But I'm really happy with it, huh? Yesterday, I was able to put 3 coats of paint on the walls in this room. It was just warm enough and everything kept drying. The undercoat is like a glue, basically. And I guess it's to help bond the old paint. It's not something that I used before in other countries. It's a very Japanese thing. I also put it on this timber that's around the room. I wanted to make the room feel a bit more modern. So we have, like, behind here, the old Japanese style. And this is around the house. I'm not afraid of losing some of this kind of, this traditional design. It still looks good, and I'm gonna still clean this up. I still wanna paint the walls at least, and clean up the timber. But in the kitchen, I wanted it to feel more hygienic, and it just doesn't have the same, it doesn't have, like, for me, it doesn't feel great with the old brown timber around. So that's something I've kind of eliminated. But yeah, the paint is like this, like I said, the undercoat is like this glue, and it doesn't work so well for the timber. I actually, you know, I knew this before. I tried explaining it because this is an oil, there's usually an oil in timber like this. And it will continue to seep through. No matter how much white paint you put on it, that's acrylic, the water-based paint, it's gonna keep coming through. And you can see that, I'll flip the camera and you'll be able to see that after 3 coats of paint, what that looks like. So up there you can see it's still not covering. And this is a nice obvious spot up here. It's just got that brown, I mean, there's the cutting in line there. Yeah, up here. But the ceiling came up really well. I'm gonna probably have to go around this again. I mean, there we go again. It's just a bit too watery. And I'll fill all of these gaps as well, because that's just gonna bother me. I'll fill that. There's a lot of brushwork in painting this particular room. It's not just one flat wall. There's so much to brush around, and it does take time. So I'm gonna have to do it again twice, I think, with oil, and then go over it again with white. So pretty frustrating, but it's a learning curve from the beginning that I'm happy to just take on board for the rest of the house. Now I'm upstairs on the 2nd floor in the big room, and it's the same situation up here. I did ask for an oil-based primer to put as the first coat to block out all of this water damage. It's from it's the moisture that keeps coming, and the temperature change. It's got this pattern on the ceiling, right? So I showed these photos to the paint store, and they gave me this, like I said, it's like a glue, PVA glue, watered down is what it's like. I've just done a test run. So I painted all of this with this glue yesterday, and I can see straight away up here behind me that it's just gonna keep seeping through. This brown is this, it's oil, and this water damage, moisture damage, it's gonna keep coming back, and it needs to be blocked out with oil, an oil-based primer. So you can see up there, I mean, this is the damage, and here's an obvious spot. So it looks okay here, but this is gonna keep coming through, this brown color. That's gonna come through forever. You can see it up there. So I'm gonna contact the paint store and ask them to put me together an order for some oil-based paint. Undercoat is on. It's 5:30 p.m. and it's time for me to chill out. I might go to an onsen close by. Here we are on the next day, back downstairs. I've now put on 5 coats of paint. This was the original room that I was using as my bedroom. I wanted to get this one finished first, so I had somewhere comfortable to sleep and a retreat from the rest of the house, which was just a complete mess. Those 5 coats consisted of the first coat, which was that primer, the PVA glue style primer, and then the 2 coats of acrylic paint that didn't cover, which led me to using the oil-based paint for another coat, and then 1 more coat of acrylic. And this was just on those areas with the mold and damp, plus some of those grease areas in the kitchen. Everywhere else had more or less that primer and 3 coats of acrylic paint. It took quite a bit to cover this Japanese wall. The wall itself was really, really dry, and I saw a few comments on another video saying about my cutting in was not great. Yep, I agree. It was really difficult to cut in. All of the walls in the corners would need to be gapped properly to get right into the corners there, but I chose not to do that because of the movement that would inevitably happen with an earthquake, and that did happen in January. So it worked out well that I made that decision too. That moves into a good point, actually, to say that wallpaper is much more common in Japan than painting walls. So you can find lots of different types of wallpaper because it does move with the movement of earthquake that shakes the house, but paint will crack, and it happened a little bit in my house, but I didn't get much of that. So I'm not too worried about making that choice of using paint. And just a quick recap, I'd say the biggest challenges of doing the painting was first cleaning off that mold, and then finding actually the right product, which was that oil-based primer. That's not impossible, but kind of confusing how to get your hands on in Japan if you don't have the right connection with a paint store. It's not something that you can get off the shelf at one of the big DIY stores. You have to go to a paint store for that paint. The other challenge was just the amount of labor that it took to paint this paint on these dry walls. Even using the correct way that was taught to me by the local Japanese paint store, which was to use that kind of glue primer, it still made it really difficult to paint that acrylic white paint over the top of the drywall. There wouldn't be anything that I would do differently, only if I was planning to pull down the walls and insulate them, and that's not something I'm doing at this point. I would be pulling down the walls, insulating them, and then replacing the walls with more of like a drywall, something that's easier to paint overall. But due to the time and the cost of that, trying to make this happen before winter, I decided to stick to just painting the walls. Again, love to hear your comments in the comment section below. Also, please subscribe if you're interested to follow and learn more about these Japanese house renovations. See you next time, and happy travels! Hope you enjoyed this update, and I'll put out a new video as soon as I can.